So I'm going to try both microphones today, one on each side of the hat. Not going to need to, but you know, I like to experiment with the gear I got sometimes. Want to thank you back. Hello. Want to thank you for coming back and watching this video. This one is going to be on the final installation of the brakes. So the pedal, the master cylinder, the caliper. The really cool thing about this kit is the pads are already included inside the master, inside the brake caliper. So you don't have to actually install the pads, they're there. You definitely want to try and get it where both pads meet together equally around the disc. It'll be better performance, better stopping power, and they wear out more evenly that way as well, the pads. So that's what this video is going to be based on, is pretty much putting together the final of the brakes. There was a previous video of setting them up basically during the during the build of this go-kart. It wasn't a final installation because I didn't want to have to disassemble the hydraulic lines and put them back together for later on, because we did paint this. Well, I learned how to use truck bed coating for the first time, and yeah, there's a couple errors on there, but that was my fault because I didn't know how to do it. So it's you're gonna see in this video after we painted, because I gotta do some editing and stuff, and I wanted to get more of that in the build. So check it out. Again, take your time. Make sure everything is fit on there properly. Everything's run the comes with these two. It comes with tubes to run the brake fluid through. It comes with more tube than you're ever gonna need. I think I used maybe a total of 6 feet, and I think it came with like 20. So yeah, you're not gonna need all the tubing that comes with it. It's been really cool, great, fun project, and I hope you enjoy this video. And as always, let's help break the algorithm. Hit subscribe and like, or like and subscribe. Whatever, wherever they're at, I don't know. Again, I'm not a YouTuber by trade, so once again, thank you for watching and hope you enjoy it. Okay, so while I'm back here, might as well bolt on the brake caliper. It's got these nice big beefy bolts. Now, the fact that we did spray this with the truck bed liner, it filled in the hole a little bit, so I'm gonna have to re-drill that hole, or I'm just gonna take the Allen and just install the Allen bolt. So I take my Allen wrench, and we're gonna let this do the threading for me. So I might be able to do it by hand a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. So, and this is a 5/16 Allen wrench that I'm using. Once it's there, hopefully, yep. So nice and smooth. Lock that sucker in. The nuts as well. And of course, I'm going to put some Loctite on it. Everybody's like, oh, it's got the nylon. I know. But I rather have Loctite than no Loctite. Little added security and a little added protection, I guess you can say. And what's the big deal if there's some Loctite on there? So what? I'd rather be safe than not have it at all. Now, another reason I want to add security is this is the only brake on the whole entire vehicle. So I want to make sure this is secure and on there nice and tight. Don't want anything to happen to the braking system. Might be going down the road and all of a sudden caliper falls off and you won't be able to stop. Well, I don't want that with this. So, yeah. A little added Loctite, why not? So, today we're going to put the brake pedals back on. I just think it's awesome. They labeled it slow and the other one fast. Very, very, really awesome, cool design and really nice machine parts. But the the slow and fast to me is just awesome. So what we're going to do is basically we did the other way. Same thing with the gas pedal. The only thing is it's opposite direction. So what we're going to do is put this in here. And we'll put a bolt in. Just like so. Put it on loose. And then again, these little collars I made. Little collar. Focusing it. Focus. Okay. So this little collar I put in there inside, so when the pedal goes back up, it's not hitting a threaded bolt and digging into the wonderful machined lever they made, or pedal, or however you want to call it. And once again, I'm putting all the bolts on the nuts on the outside, because I don't want a sharp edge on the inside. So if somebody rests their footing on the inside, it's going to be on top of one of these capped bolts. They're rounded off. They're not sharp edges, which is nice. And then wrench it all in. Now, I'm going to add some Loctite to it again, like I do pretty much every bolt on this thing. And no, I'm not being sponsored by Loctite. It would be nice if they did sponsor me, but no money my way. And it's alright. I'm not worried. Again, my life is not revolved around making content for, well, actually it is kind of revolved around making content for everybody. The only difference is it's not for my pages, it's for everybody else's pages or TV or movie theater. Yeah, I've been working in the television and film industry. This June will mark 40 years. Yep, I'm old. It's okay. I'm not complaining. I have fun. It's all that matters. Yeah, Loctite just gives you a little added security, a little added benefit. I've been using Loctite for a long time. The next is going to be the lever that goes to the brakes. Now, what's cool about this piece is that it's actually got a bolt and a cotter pin. And what we're going to do again is I'm going to put the bolt going towards the outside. Just like so. So the cotter pin's on the outside. Right there. So if a little piece of that metal sticks out, it won't dig into the foot of whoever's driving it, because that could be painful and we don't need that. And since this is final assembly, I can go ahead and finally put the cotter pin in, and I can bend it up the way I want to. Put the cotter pin in. Now, some guys do one direction, not the band, the little pin here. I'm going to do them both in different directions. And you don't want to drop it because that makes a pain in the butt. This pin is really small. So there you can see I've got it. It's not going to fall out. This pin, this locking pin is not coming out. That's not coming out. That's going to stay in there and be in there forever until you unfold that. And then on the other side, okay. So the other side, you're going to have the master cylinder, and this is going to want to be put in somewhere. We're thinking maybe the top. So hold that open if you can. That'll then tell you the alignment you're looking for, or just help you find the alignment. Actually, what I did was I put this rod in backwards. I want the longer part the other side. So this rod comes with a long threaded end and a short threaded end. I want the short ended thread on this side and the long one on the other one. That's my personal preference. It might be right, might be wrong. I don't know. But that's the way I'm doing it. So, just like so. So when it pulls it down, I'm going to go farther. Okay. So now I'm digging through one of those little tubs. I like the fact they give you these tubs, because then you can separate everything out. Everything can be labeled. You don't have to worry about it. So again, another rod, another cotter pin, another bolt for say. I'm going to put this in the middle for right now. It's not locked in yet. I just want to see how the travel is with everything. With the brake. I think it's where it's going to live, in the middle. I think that's looking really good. Again, put the pin in, fold it up around. And there you go. So there's that. Now there's one other thing you have to take consideration when you're dealing with this part of the braking system. There's a nut right here, and it's basically a jam nut. What you want to do is tighten it up against this piece right here. And you're going to do the same thing with the other side. So just get a wrench, make sure it's tight. There you go. And then now I'll show you the other side here. Okay, so this jam nut right here wants to be against this body here. What that does is it makes it so this rod doesn't unthread itself. And yeah, I know people are like, well, where's the Loctite? You don't have to actually use Loctite on this. Again, you don't. But you know what? I'm going to put a little bit on there just to be safe. So I'm going to back this out a little bit. Just enough to get the Loctite nozzle in there. And I know there's going to be people saying, you're using too much Loctite. You don't need Loctite everywhere. Okay, what's your application? My application is different. This is for a movie. I don't want anything to happen while it's on the movie set. I don't want to have a phone call real early in the morning going, hey, how do you fix this piece? But if it's Loctited and bonded, I don't have to worry about it. I'll get sleep at night. So, now, whenever you push this pedal down, it moves that rod forward, which then turn hits the master cylinder. And this is where the fun's going to begin, because now we're going to start wiring up the tubing for the brakes. There's not a lot of direction on how to do this. In the books or online, I really can't find anything anywhere that's very, very detailed oriented. I have bled brakes on cars, motorcycles, things like that. Never done it for a go-kart. But we're going to learn. That's the whole point of these videos, learning something new. So there's these two lines coming in and out of the cylinder. So what we want to do is, let's take the top one off. And you're going to see that inside there's this little thimble thing. I don't know exactly what it's called, flange, something like that. But that's what's basically going to crush the tube. So be careful with it. You don't want to lose that. We're going to take that off. And then there's another one on the bottom. Do the same thing. We're going to take that one off as well. Now, we're going to start with the bottom because it'd be a lot easier to work on that and then work on the top. We're going to take the brake hose. It comes with plenty of brake hose. There's probably about, I don't know, 20 feet in here. But we don't need 20 feet. So we're going to do this very, very simply. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with the first line. And you kind of want to have these equal lengths when you're done. But what I'm going to do is we're going to take... Let's do this. We're going to take the first hose and this nut. I'm going to thread it on here somehow, just like that. Take your time if you have to. Okay. And then we're going to take this thimble or collar. I think it basically flares out when you start crushing it in the tube. Get it on the tube like so. So now you have two of them on there. You have this and that. We're going to stick the hose all the way in as much as I can. And then I'm going to hold it in with one hand. And the other hand I'm going to tighten this up. just like so. Bring in my wrench in. Make sure it's really secure. Because the thing is, you don't want anything to leak out of this. A little snug, tight. It is very tight. It's not moving anywhere, which is nice. And so currently, I'm going to make that nice and tight. Just like so. So right now, the tube is going down the chassis. There's the seat. This is where the battery will go. So it's got to be basically away from that. So it's going to be underneath here, come across, keep on going, and then it's eventually going to go, one's going to go here, the other one's going to go there. These are the inputs, this is the output. This is where you can bleed the brakes to bring out some fluid. Okay, so did it again. Put this nut on here, this thimble, collar, I don't know exactly what it's called. Again, I'm not a master mechanic. I just know how to build things. So yeah, again, we're just gonna push that in there as far as we can without forcing anything. Slide that up, take this, and then lock it over top. Just like so. I get my wrench out. Oop. And I'm gonna tighten it up again. And now you can see why I said do the bottom one first, because it's easier to now get to the top one. So the bottom one was done last. It'd be really hard to get to it. Just like so. Now, to hold it in place, I'm going to use some zip ties. And again, you don't have to do this. It's up to you. Everybody's like, well, why are you putting it in place now? Well, zip ties don't cost much. And I'd rather these be in place where they need to be while I'm building it. I don't have to worry about, oh, where are they going to be or how are they going to be maintained. So again, zip ties are cheap. I don't mind ruining a couple. Oh no, you ruined a couple zip ties. Yeah, my life is over now. So, I'm going to zip tie it wherever I can. Just for now. Might change later on. And I'll trim the zip ties later as well. There's a bolt hole here. I have to go around that hole, because that hole, this hole right here, is going to be a bolt that comes out and holds the battery down. So I don't want to put that in its way. So I went down around a little bit. It's fine. Again, this is your creation. You do what you've got to do. So the caliper has two of these bolts as well with thimbles in it, and these caps up top. This is how you bleed the brakes. And what I mean by bleeding is you basically want to eject some fluid out of here, or basically air. You don't want air in the line, because air will not make this perform as well as it has to. And you want to have both of these sides equal, because what's in here is basically a hydraulic clamp. So the clamp will clamp down on the disc brake, the disc that's spinning, and the two pads will smush against it, and that'll help you stop. So you want to have equal force left and right. So that's why you want to bleed these to make sure all the air is out. Because if not, one side might work, one side might not, or both sides might not work, and you don't want that. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take these off and drop them all over the place. So try and not drop them, the pieces, and try and not lose them either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand underneath this one. There we go. And then what I want to do is I want to see what's going to happen with this side. So this side I need a little bit like that. I'm going to cut it off a little bit longer than I really need to. Those are just some snips. Put the threaded on piece first. Put that collar on next. Jam it in as best as possible. Just like so. Now, since I want to make the tubes as close to the same length as possible, everybody's going to say, no, you don't want to do that. Well, I'm doing it because my years of doing hydraulics, it's always been you want the lines to be the same length. Again, this might be a little different because it's a brake, but I don't mind them looking like that. I can dress them up later on if I have to. But I know that on hydraulic systems, equal length means equal pressure. And then just again, tighten these up. And somebody's going to ask, well, why is equal pressure going to matter? Well, when the two pads clamp together, let me get this right, there we go. When the two pads inside here clamp together against this disc, you want equal force on both sides, left and right. So it doesn't just mean that the pads will wear even, it means that your stopping force is distributed equally. And I don't know about you, but that sounds like a great idea to me. Why would you want one side to work more than the other? Why not have them both work equally? And somebody's going to say, well, what do you know about hydraulics? Well, I did my internship for DuPont in college making high compression molds for bumpers, track bed liners, things like that, working with polypropylene, polyethylenes, all that fun stuff. And what it taught me is that I learned hydraulic pumps, I learned about hydraulic pressure for the mold making, because they were high pressure molds, and what they were doing is we were injecting polypropylene or polyethylene into these molds to get the pressure, well, to make the product, and to get the pressure to work evenly. You had to make sure that each side of the line was equally distributed. That's basically where I learned that. So yeah, it might get a little goofy look with the way that, you know, the tube's running, but as long as it's equal pressure, both of the pads will clamp equally against this disc. So they're both doing equal work. Sounds good to me. Like I said, this kit came with everything. And I do mean pretty much almost everything. Everything but like the basic tools in the welding kit. It even comes with this really cool looking brake fluid. I don't even know what color it is. Again, colorblind. So, but we'll see what happens with it. It's a very, very extremely taped up. Somebody either loves a lot of tape or they packaged it really nice. So yeah, somebody put a lot of tape on this brake fluid. And like I said before, they either love using a lot of tape or they just didn't want this thing to open up during shipping. And I can tell you right now, it's not opening up easily either. So you can untape it. This is not a drink. Do not drink this. This is brake fluid. Can't smell it. It's got a seal on it. So I just poked a tiny little hole in it so I can dribble it into the reservoir so I don't make a mess. You can use a funnel, whatever it is you want. I'm just going to use the reservoir method. It's a little drip here and there and try and fill it up slowly as I'm pumping the brake. Fill up the lines. And then I'll show you how to bleed the brakes as well. So yeah, this is what's one thing I noticed that I couldn't find anywhere. How to put together the braking system for a go-kart. So this is how you do it, I guess. And I know I'm sure somebody out there is going to say I'm doing it wrong, and that's fine. I don't mind. If it works, that's all that matters. I'm doing it on the principle of how a car is done. I don't know if it's the same process or not, but we'll find out shortly. We'll see. I don't know. So yeah, this will be the first time I'm bleeding brakes on a go-kart. And assembling brakes and building brakes and pretty much everything else for the brakes. Like I said, whatever I figure out, I'm going to let you guys know in on it as well. Okay, so this is the reservoir, and right here is the cap. It's also the master cylinder reservoir. It's pretty much everything for the brakes, besides the actual brake calipers. I put a little hole in this bottle. I'm just going to let it leak in there. I don't want to make too much of a mess. Just like that. I don't want to make that much of a mess. So I did. And just make sure you wipe it up sooner than later. Brake fluid can be nasty stuff, depending on what you're dealing with. And then I'm pumping the brakes a little bit here and there, holding them open, and then closing it up, holding it open, and closing it up, holding it open. This lets fluid go into the lines. And I'm adding some more. And it's just a repeat process. Just take your time. You don't need to go fast with this. You want this to be heard a little burp there. A little bit of the air escaping. That's why you go slow. So you let air escape. And you don't want air in the line. And just keep on adding a little here and there. Hold it open for a couple seconds. Let it close for a couple seconds. Open and close. And you're going to hear the air come out. And that's what you want. You don't want any air in the lines. Okay, so that's filled to the top. It's not going to stay that way, because once I start pumping the lines, air is going to come out. I'm going slow with it, because if you go too fast, it'll shoot back up and make a mess everywhere. That's not what you want. Wiping it off every once in a while. Now, on the other end is the bleeder valves. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up one of them at a time, and I still have the master cylinder open and the reservoirs open as well. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take this little catch bottle, come here, and I'm going to open this up because I don't have a hose that goes down. If you had a hose, you go down to a bigger bucket. I don't have a hose with me, so I'm just going to do it this method. And it's fairly loose. This will catch any of the brake fluid that's coming out of that line. And you hold. Okay, nothing's there. And we're going to lock this back up while we're holding the brakes. And then we're going to release it. And you'll see air's traveling through the lines. We want to get rid of that air, and that's what this is. This is a bleeder valve to get rid of the air. So right now, I'm going to recap the master cylinder. Okay, so now no more air can come in through the master cylinder, but air can escape out of here, and that's what I want. So now if I open this up, then I pump the brake, a little bit of fluid in there. I'm holding that down. I want to relock that. And what's starting to happen is the brake pads are starting to close when I hit the brake paddle. And now I need to do the other side as well. So take this little bottle. Open that up. And this is not one and done. This is going to take a couple times to do this. Come back here. I'm going to hold. Close this up. Tighten it like so. Clean up any mess. Let go of the line. See where the air is traveling. Okay, now let's hit the line again, see what happens. The brake calipers are closing. Let go, they open. I'll show you what I mean. So when I hit the brakes, the calipers close together evenly. Even braking force, left and right side. That's what you want. So that'll help stop your go-kart. So, you see, got a little bit in there, not tons, because I worked on it. I worked on it slowly. Let the air work itself out. Comes these little black caps to cover up over the bleeder valves. Might as well put them on, make sure dirt and grime doesn't get in there. So there you go. Didn't use all of it. Almost half a bottle of the brake fluid. I'll save it for another project. And the little catch can had a tiny bit. You can either take this and pour it back in here, or vice versa, or whatever you want to do. However you want to store it, it's up to you. Save these for in case you got to redo the line somewhere later on, or add more fluid or anything you want. So this is basically how I did the brakes. They work. Take your time. Let the air bleed out. You're going to get a little bit of fluid popping out of the air lines. That's fine. You want to bleed the brakes. So if this little bit of fluid shoots out of the bleeder valves, that's good. But then you'll hear some air going through as well. You hear a shh, or a little burping noise or something like that. That's also good. So take your time, test it, make sure it works, make sure all the fittings are tight. You don't want any leaking anywhere, because leaking braking fluid means that it's not going to perform the way you want. And again, I made both lines the same distance because I wanted equal pressure on both sides of the disc pad. I know people are going to say, oh, it doesn't matter, this or that, but I rather the pads wear equally and evenly. I don't want one side more than the other wearing down sooner, because that could add to a failure later on, or even more of a repair later on. Try and get them to equally. So that's basically how you do the brakes. I hope that helps everybody, because like I said, I can't find any real videos on how to do brakes for go-karts anywhere. So I kind of made this one for you guys just to help you out. Yeah, it is part of my final build video, but it's also a separate video as well. So again, hope it helps you out, and thanks for watching. The pedal with the linkage, with the cotter pin folded around, locking nut, the jam nut, all tight. Then you go down the rod some more. You come to the master cylinder. Again, another cotter pin wrapped around. And when this goes forward, pressure, the fluid go down these lines. All the way to the brake caliper right there. And if you will see, as you see, when you push the pedal in, you can see the pads moving in and out. And in the center is the disc. So the pistons inside there are pushing against with the hydraulic pressure that was created by the tubing. And you'll notice that the tube right here is This is one tube and this is another tube. It's kind of like a funky little twist and everything in there. That's a funky little twist in here. And this comes up and around and goes into there. And the reason being for that is that these tubes are equal length. So this one and this one are the same length. And by creating that twist in it, what happens is they so this tube with the twist in it and this tube are both the actual same length. And what that does is it allows for equal pressure on both sides of the pads. So whenever the pedal is pushed, the pads are equally compressing on top of that disc from both sides. So the equal pressure will give you a lot more stopping force. And you can see that that disc is pretty much almost dead smack center. Center as possible. And there you go. That's the final. I zip tie the tubes in. I'll cut the zip ties when I'm done. It's pretty much ready to go out for a final test. Then you come down here underneath the seat. All the way there's the master cylinder from a company called CP. Pretty cool. And there's the rod that pushes against the pedal. I'm going to hit the slow pedal. This all moves forward. And in turn, that moves that hydraulic piston inside, which creates pressure, which creates force, and that in turn closes the brake pads. When you're done, you also want to make sure that these caps are put on top. These are your bleeder valves. You want to make sure that they're nice and tight so nothing is leaking out. And it looks like a little bit has leaked out. So I want to make sure this is tight and that's tight. These are where you bleed the brakes, so the fluid comes out and get rid of the air in the lines to create maximum pressure and maximum. So that's how I did the brakes, the final installation of the brakes. Again, just take your time, make sure there's no leaks anywhere, and have fun with it. You know, like always, just try and have fun, guys. And remember, this is a very important part of the go-kart, because if it doesn't stop, we know it could happen then. And just make sure you go step by step. Again, follow the instructions. If you have any questions, call up Go Kart God. They know everything about these things. This is my first go-kart. I'm going slow with it. And yes, I've had a ton of videos that I'm putting on for building this thing. And it's just because I want to make sure everything is done step by step and is done correctly. Again, make sure this is a very important part of the go-kart. This is how you stop, and you want to have that stopping force. Make sure there's equal pressure on the pads to the disc. Just take your time with it and be safe. And like I said, just have fun and enjoy your go-kart, guys. And just make sure you can stop, please. We don't want you to get hurt. We want you to have fun with it. And I know the guys that create this kit and the people that work on it, they don't want you to get hurt either. So if you have any questions, just step up, call them up, email them, go to the website, ask them whatever, whatever questions you need. Again, I'm not a leading authority on go-karts. This is the first one I ever built. I've been testing and retesting. I need to make sure the brakes work perfectly. They stop on time. They stop really good. And from what I've done, they do stop and they work. Because I'm going to have an actor on this thing, and a stunt person. Stunt guys, they don't really use brakes. I mean, they do, but they want to slide and they want to do like 360s and 180s everywhere. Things like that. Which is possible with this thing. I've seen guys do 180s and 360s. As long as you got the right set of brakes. So just make sure your brakes are set up. You're not going to use all the fluid. There's no way you're going to put that whole entire bottle in this system. It's just not going to happen. You will have probably about maybe a half a bottle left. That's what I've ended up with. And just, like I said, take your time. Have fun with it. Thanks for watching, as always. And let's break the algorithm. Subscribe and like and subscribe. And just let's go from there. Thanks, guys. Have a great time, and see you on the next one.